Hey everyone, it's Misty. Welcome back to my channel. I had a lot of fun making this card this week. This is for the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge. The theme this week is interactive cards, and we are featuring products from Fawn. So bear with me, please. This is a longer video. This is the first time I've ever made a magic color slider. And so this video is a little bit long, but it's worth it in the end. So hopefully you stick around. I just recently got my Tim Holtz glass media mat. I'm super excited about. I love it, but I was having some issues trying to keep my big lights from blinding you, so it's kind of zoomed in right now. Eventually, throughout the video, I'll realize that I can go back a little bit more and show you a little bit more of what's happening here. But all right, so I should just call this my card of mistakes because I did so many things along the way that didn't have to happen. So I'll kind of point those out as I go. But my first mistake was not making sure I have a big enough piece of Bristol smooth cardstock, because this first die that I cut out, there's several pieces in this this slider die set, but this piece was longer. I have all mine cut down to A2 size, so I had to turn to my stash of Bristol vellum cardstock, which I've never used. The only reason why I have it is because I bought it by mistake instead of the Bristol Smooth. So it's been sitting on a shelf. I thought, why not? Let's just give it a try. And it works pretty good. It just seems a little bit thicker. It kind of reminded me of watercolor paper, but it blends great. So I'm just going to do what you do with Distress Oxide inks. I'm just going to go back and forth over the colors and try to get a nice even blend. So the colors I'm using are Wilted Violet, Picked Raspberry, Spiced Marmalade, and Squeezed Lemonade. And I know I've used this color combo before, but I love these colors together. They look really great. But I'm kind of seeing this color combo too, so next time I need the Distress Oxide color combo, I will try to find something different. All right, so I ink blended those. It looks great. It's nice and smooth. But because the paper's a little bit thicker, I'm going to have a problem here when I fold it, but I'll point that out when I get there. Now this is another die in the set. It cuts out this cool little window and leaves a nice stitched frame. And I'm going to cut down a piece of the Express It blending card. It's copic friendly paper to a little smaller than 3 by 3.5. And here's mistake number 2. So I was tracing like a little kind of a frame to show me where my images were going to be in the window. And I forgot to erase them before I start coloring over them. So that's my mistake number 2. Here I'm just trying to line up. I want to make sure I'm not going to cut off my little bird's head. So that's where those little traced pencil lines came in handy. So for each thing I stamp, I'm going to stamp it with the Memento Tuxedo black ink on my Express It blending card because I'm going to copic color it. And then I'm going to wipe it off. I'm going to stick in my piece of acetate, which there's another die in this set that cuts this piece of acetate to the perfect size. And I'm going to stamp that with the StazOn black ink. Here was kind of an unnecessary step. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to trace all the way around the acetate, just to kind of give me an idea of where it's supposed to go. Now, each time I put in a new stamp, I'm going to line it up with the previous image so that I make sure I'm stamping it right where it needs to be. So the tracing was not really needed, but it was just nice to have there because just another visual. So here's the StazOn ink, which I've never really used before. So I was worried it was gonna not dry, but that's why I just kind of gave it some time to sit there. I'm stamping on acetate. I figured it would stay a little bit wet for a minute. So I'm a little bit slower with stamping the acetate. And I'm just going to go this way throughout my whole little scene here. I'm going to stamp it with the Memento Tuxedo black ink on the copic friendly paper, and then I'll stamp it before I remove the stamp. I'll stamp it on the acetate with the StazOn black ink. So since this was my first time making this slider contraption here. I'm okay with my mistakes. At least I learned from my mistakes. Because here's mistake number, what am I on? This is mistake number 3. So I stamped this cute, tiny little heart above my little lovebirds' heads. That little heart came from another stamp set from Lawn Fawn called Little Bundle. But, and I didn't even realize it here, I stamped it on the copic paper in pink, but on the acetate, I stamped it in black. And in that stamp set, there's a, there's a solid heart, and then there's one that just has the like the outside of the heart so you can color the inside. And that's what I should have used, because the acetate doesn't slide up and down. The acetate stays there. So once I stamp that in black, it's going to stay a black heart. But that's okay, because it's still a cute little heart. And for some reason, I'm jumping all over the place here. So first I started stamping out my images on the Post-it paper to mask them. Then I'm jumping to cutting out the other pieces of my little contraption here. And Kelly Marie says to just kind of move it around in there. It just kind of loosens it up a bit. So you just want to put it in and just wiggle it around and try to, make it so it slides really smoothly. So for some reason, I thought I needed to stop and do that right there. And now I'm going to go back to my masking. Don't ask me why. I have no rhyme or reason to the things I do sometimes. And that's just kind of how my life is. I get sidetracked very easily. So I'm going to do some fun little colored clouds here. I'm going to use the same colors that I used for my frame there. And I'm using a stencil by My Favorite Things. And the stencil is called... Oh, I just had it out too, and I put it away. It's called Mini Cloud Edges. And this is a great stencil to have. I love it. It just has different edges, so you don't have to have the same clouds, which I really like. Now I'm just going to make a little grassy area. I'm using Distress inks this time instead of Distress Oxide inks. I'm using the Mowed Lawn and the Peeled Paint, and I'm just going to ink blend a section. I'm going to use the Forest Border by Lawn Fawn to cut out kind of a little tree hill at the bottom of my card. Just trying to figure out how much of the that green area I wanted to show at the bottom of my card. Because then I'm going to take the largest stitch rectangle by Lawn Fawn and I'm going to cut it to match my background piece here. Now, with the slider pieces you see at the top left of my screen, they say to use the same weight paper for your little track and the little slider as you do for the rest of the card. So that way everything's supposed to glide smoothly, but I didn't, because I didn't want to use that vellum paper for it, or Bristol vellum. So I was a little worried about that. I ended up cutting 2 of the little track areas just in case I needed it, but I don't use it. I just use one of them and it works just fine. I use the 80-pound Nina cardstock for my little track and my slider. Here I'm just using the Lawn Fawn Puffy Cloud border to make my own stencil. And for the background that the slider is going to be on, I just did more clouds. I just did them in the tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink. And I have to say, I think these are the best clouds I've ever done. It's too bad most of it's going to be covered up with the little magic slider. Good practice, I guess. All right, I'm just going to put in a little bit of the copic coloring. Super easy, simple copic coloring. I did 2 colors for the branch. And I'll list all the colors I'm using here. If I don't have them on the screen, I'll have them over on my blog. It just depends on if I have time to add them or not. And mistake number 4, I'm super bummed about, but I don't even know how this happened. But I used stamp sets that are no longer available. They're retired stamp sets. The images I used here are from a stamp set called Home Sweet Home from Lawn Fawn, and the sentiment too, oh, this pains me. The sentiment is from Simon Says Stamp, Just a Love Note, and neither one of them are available anymore, which I don't even know how that happened. I pulled my entire Lawn Fawn collection out on my desk, and I was, picking through them. I'm usually really good about checking first to make sure it's available before I make a card, and I don't know. I didn't think Lawn Fawn stamp sets retired. So bummed. But luckily, the Lawn Fawn has so many cute images that I found, which I'll link to in the description below and also over my blog, with very similar images. Cute little birds. They have tons of cute little birds, and there's a couple sets with cute little houses in them too. So luckily, it's not that bad. But yeah, I'm really bummed about that, because usually I'm really good about making sure they're available before I even use them. And let's just jump right into mistake number 5. Oh, this Spectrum Noir. Is this yeah, this is a Spectrum Noir clear glitter pen. And I am done with this pen. I'm not using it ever again. Look how much, here, it's going to show you in a second. There's so much coming out of it, and I don't know how to stop this from happening. I don't know why it's happening. This pen used to work just fine, but both on my little heart and my window, it just looks awful. And I wasn't about to start over. It looks, I don't know why so much of it's coming out. Yeah, I even tried, like soaking it up with a paper towel. Now I'm just trying to salvage it. But instead of it looking, kind of cute and glittery, it just looks like a metallic window and a metallic heart now. Look at that. Can't even see the lines in the window anymore. Oh, I was so mad at this point. So when I cursed the pen and I threw it on the ground. Now I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to fix this. And the last time this happened, I remember I just took my copic markers and I went back over it and it dulled it down a bit. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm flicking the glitter off on that piece of cardstock there. And there's quite a bit of glitter on my copic pen, so I know some of it's coming off. But couldn't really do that with the heart. I'm pretty sure a couple cuss words even snuck out. Okay, here's what I was talking about, the paper. So it's kind of like watercolor paper is how it felt to me. And that die right there comes with a crease in it. And it looks like, when you score paper too hard and it almost tears it, that's what it looked like. And I was really worried that was going to end up, tearing there. But it doesn't. I'm really gentle with it. And because once it's closed, it's not coming back open. So I think it'll be okay. Now I'm just putting my little scene in there. It fits perfect. Everything, this die comes with everything. Exactly perfect size, where to put what. So my little scene went on the back there. I'm putting 1/8 of an inch score tape all around the window there, and that's where I'm going to stick the acetate. So I lined the acetate up with my image, and I'm using that Post-it tape that I used when I was ink blending to hold it in place. And once I remove all that backing there, I'm just going to close it. So I know my acetate is right where it needs to be. And I almost messed the whole thing up here. When I pulled on that Post-it tape, it kind of pulled the acetate a little bit, and I was worried it was going to shift it, but it didn't. It's perfect. I love perfect when it comes to my cards. I know that's horrible, but I was so happy with it. Now I'm just going to use that little stencil that I made, and I'm going to cut. It comes with a couple different tabs to put on the top of your slider. So since I'm not going to use that paper stencil again, most likely, I'm trying to get rid of clutter, I just used it to cut a couple of the different little tabs to see which one I liked the best. I chose this tab with the little hole in it because I thought it would be a good idea to have some twine hang out of it, so it would be easier to pull the slider up, because since I'm using an A2 size card base, I figured it might be kind of hard to try to get your finger behind that and pull it up. It was either that or I was going to put craft foam behind it and pop it up a little bit so it would be easy to get your finger behind the pull here part and pull it up. I love the little pull here. That was part of another stamp set by Lawn Fawn. It's called Push Here, and it has all kinds of cool little, push here, pull here, shake me, slide me. It's a really cool stamp set for interactive cards. So here's where I had 2 tracks cut. I put the 1/8 inch score tape on both sides. I'm just going to take the backing off one side for now, and it lines up perfectly with the rest of the doohickey here. I lined it up at the bottom first just to make sure there was going to be none hanging over, and I trusted that it was going to go all the way to the top like it's supposed to, so it was just easier for me to line it up at the bottom first. And I didn't end up using that second track. I just thought it might be too tight in there, being that it was kind of like what felt like watercolor paper texture to me, but I didn't use it. So now I'm lifting up that other side of the score tape, and I'm going to close everything in place. And I'm just kind of guiding it a little bit to the left because it kept wanting to pull to the right a little bit. I think it's so cute, even with the black art. I'm using my mini Misty to stamp out my sentiment, and unfortunately the sentiment is from the other retired stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Just a Love Note. But I figured that's an easy enough sentiment that, you can easily just add a little caret and add the word love. Lots of stamps that say just a note. I'm going to use my glue syringe to add glue to the back of my tree border here. And I have the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive in my syringe. My card base is Nina 110-pound cardstock. And the background panel there on the left is also the Bristol vellum paper. It's a nice paper. Not quite sure what the difference is between that and the Bristol Smooth. I mean, it feels smoother. I can definitely tell Bristol Smooth is smoother than the Bristol vellum, but it seemed to ink blend really nicely and just a little bit thicker is all it seems, but I'm not sure why it's called Bristol vellum, because the vellums I've seen are kind of see-through. I've seen some that are thin and some that are thicker, but this is definitely not see-through. I have an idea. How about the first person to tell me what vellum paper is, the definition of vellum paper, the first person to tell me, I will send you this extra pad of Bristol vellum paper that I have here. I haven't done a giveaway in a long time, and I really want to thank you for still being here watching this video at almost 20 minutes in. So the first person to tell me what the definition of vellum paper is in the US, let's keep it to the US. First person to tell me, I will send you this pack of Bristol vellum paper. Yeah, I think that's a grand idea. All right, I just wanted to leave the sentiment part in here because I thought it was perfect for this card. It's from My Favorite Things, More Essential Sentiments, and it just says, "You are my happy place." And then I added the hello that comes in the Magic Color Cider die with some glitter paper from Simon Says Stamp on the front there, just to kind of finish it off. And that is my card for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, especially on long videos like this. So if you like this video, please click on the like button. And if you want to see more of my videos, which don't tend to be this long, click on that subscribe button and the little bell icon, and that way you'll be notified when I post a new video, which is every Wednesday. All of the supplies that I used, I will list and link in the description below, and I'll also have more information over on my blog, like how to join the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge. So, all right, thank you. I'll see you next week. Bye.